You leave a conversation feeling off, not angry, not hurt, just uneasy. You replay the words in your head. You wonder if you overreacted. Maybe you misunderstood. And somehow you feel a little guilty even though you're not sure why. That quiet disorientation, that creeping self-doubt, that's not nothing. The most subtle manipulation rarely looks like manipulation. It doesn't need loud arguments. It doesn't need threats. It shows up quietly, in small gestures, in carefully chosen words, in silences that say more than anything spoken. And when it happens, you start questioning yourself rather than them. Here are 7 signs someone may be quietly influencing you without you even realizing it. Sign 1. Your emotions feel like the problem. You say something bothers you, and somehow the conversation ends with you apologizing. Not them. You. It doesn't happen with yelling or obvious dismissal. It happens with tiny tilts in the conversation. A casual, "You're too sensitive," or "I was just joking, why do you always take things so seriously?" Psychologists call this emotional invalidation. But in real life, it's subtler. Over time, you start questioning whether your feelings are reliable. Not weakness, not flaw, just a quiet way your nervous system protects itself. Sign 2. Guilt is used like a compass, always pointing back at you. They might say, "After everything I've done for you," or "Fine, I'll just handle it myself." It sounds like hurt, like vulnerability, but it's not asking for understanding. It's asking for compliance. Most people respond instinctively. They try to fix it, apologize, overextend. That's the point. It works because empathy is natural. It turns genuine concern into subtle influence. Sign 3. History gets rewritten calmly. You remember clearly what was said. You know your intentions. But when you bring it up, you hear, "That's not what happened," or "You're misremembering again." This quiet gaslighting doesn't need aggression. It works because memory and perception are the foundations of reality. When someone undermines those, you start doubting yourself not because you're unreliable, but because the interactions are structured that way. And that doubt, it fosters dependence. Sign 4. They give to keep score. They are thoughtful, generous, helpful. And then, weeks later, in the middle of something small, it comes up, "I did that for you, and this is how you treat me." Real generosity doesn't have a price. Manipulative generosity does. And you only see the cost when it's time to collect. Here's where it gets interesting. Most people think manipulation is about power. Sometimes it is, but often it's fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of rejection. Fear that asking directly will fail. So instead of asking, they engineer. Instead of being vulnerable, they maneuver. It doesn't make it harmless, but it explains why it rarely looks like what we imagine manipulation to be. It looks like love, like care, like someone who just needs reassurance. And because it looks like that, you stay. And because you stay, the pattern continues. Sign 5. They isolate you, disguised as closeness. It doesn't start with "stop seeing your friends." It starts small. "She never really had your back, you know." Or "He brings out a different side of you." Subtle seeds, quietly planted. Over time, your world shrinks. Not because people leave, but because your focus shifts. Isolation feels like intimacy, like it's us against the world. But real closeness expands your world. It doesn't quietly contract it. Sign 6. Inconsistency keeps you off balance. Some days they are warm, present, easy to be around. Other days, distant, cold, or quietly irritated. You find yourself scanning every interaction, trying to guess which version you'll get. That scanning, that hyper-awareness, it's not anxiety, it's a logical response. Intermittent reinforcement, as psychologists call it, is powerful. Unpredictable patterns strengthen attachment. You keep looking for the good moments. You try to understand the bad ones. It feels like chemistry, but underneath, it's influence. Sign 7. They make you feel chosen, and then use that feeling. At first, they notice what most people miss. They say the right things. You feel truly seen. That feeling meets a deep human need. Attachment forms. It's real. But later, when warmth becomes conditional, when being chosen feels like something to earn, that attachment is leveraged. Real connection doesn't work that way. It doesn't get revoked when you disappoint. It doesn't require careful management of yourself. When love feels like a performance review, the structure isn't right. What ties all these signs together? Confusion, self-doubt, a quiet whisper of, maybe it's me. That whisper isn't a flaw, it's a structural output of the pattern. While you question yourself, you're not questioning them. While you manage their emotions, your own take a back seat. Intent doesn't matter, awareness does. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. What felt personal becomes pattern. What felt random begins to make sense. Awareness, calm, clear, unshakable awareness, is where everything begins. Once you notice the structure, the fog lifts. Understanding the pattern isn't about changing anyone else. It's about seeing human behavior clearly. It was never random. It was always patterned. And that understanding alone opens the door to seeing interactions in a whole new way. If you recognize any of this in your experiences, there's more beneath the surface. Observing patterns is just the beginning. Seeing them clearly is where understanding begins.